of God. He saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen who were washing their nets. He got into one of them. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little ways from shore. Then he sat down and he taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch." And Simon answered, "Master, we have worked hard all night and we haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them, and they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and he said, "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." For he and all his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. So were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. Then Jesus said to Simon, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people." So they pulled their boats up on shore, left everything, and followed him. So, I'm just going to wing this because I don't know what's going to happen. I know there's a closing song that we're going to sing, okay? So, I always like to tell one story about my mom on Mother's Day. I could tell you many. I could tell you of the time she saved my life from my father. And that's because I think he was going to kill me. And it wasn't even really my fault. Well, ask me about the biology story and I'll tell you. And you'll go, "Oh, it really wasn't your fault." Well, it was this much my fault. I was there, and that's all it took from my father. Some of you recognize that syndrome with fathers. My mother was about 5 feet tall. She was short. And my father is about 6'4". And so you would think that my dad would rule the house, and that was never the case. But every once in a while, my mother, like probably your mother, uttered words of wisdom. Did your mother ever use words of wisdom? And as you got older, the more wise they became. Well, I want to share one quote with you that has really been a part of my life forever and ever. And I actually used it last week at the Mother's Day banquet. But my mother once said, "Davy, let me tell you something. God created you very special." I knew that. She says, "He gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. You should use them proportionately." Isn't that good? That's right. Listen more, talk less. Now, for those of you like me who are talkers, that means you have to pray for longer days. It's true, isn't it? And then there are the other simple ones, like she says, "Now remember, if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all." And I looked at her one day and I said, "But then we would have lots and lots of silence." And she said, "Wouldn't that be nice?" Today we're talking about the invitations of Jesus, and we've talked each week, and the first one was to come and see, and that is to come see Jesus in us. And then last week we talked about come and follow, and that's really an action step. That's where you've seen Jesus and you want to say, "I'm in." And so you start to follow him. Well, today we're going to talk about come and go fishing, and how many of you like to fish? Oh, good. I'm glad there are lots of hands up, otherwise you'd be bored. What does it take to go fishing? You never went fishing? Walt, can you help make something happen for Mary? Because Walt helped me with the sermon today. If you don't like it, it's his fault. You have to have patience, that's right. So, I grew up in Eastern Oregon, and I had not only great parents, I had great grandparents. My mother's parents, we called them Mom and Granddad because my older brother couldn't say Grandma. So, it was Mom and Granddad. And we were so blessed. In every year and every opportunity, we'd go spend time with my grandparents. And they would take us camping and hiking and fishing and just all over. We'd spend 10 to 14 days at Fort Stevens up near Astoria or someplace else on the coast. And we'd spend 10 days or 2 weeks at Wallowa Lake, which is really where God lives. Just if you've never been there, God lives there.
It is true.
And you know, he taught me all the important things like fishing. And he said fishing is as simple as 1, 2, 3. He says you have to be in the right lake, you have to use the right bait, and you have to hold your mouth right. That's right. And there were lots of times where I knew I was in the right lake because Granddad was catching fish. And I just assumed I was using the right bait because I was using the same bait he was. And I wouldn't catch a bait. Any of you ever have that experience where the person sitting next to you is catching fish after fish and it's like you haven't put your hook even in the water? We'll get back to that. So, those 3 things. And I talk about those 3 things because those are exactly what Jesus did in these stories. I don't know if you noticed or not. When Jesus went fishing, he was always in the right lake. He always used the right bait, and he obviously held his mouth right. I love the first story from Matthew today. He's walking down by the lakeside, and we always think, well, this is the first time Jesus has met Peter and Andrew and James and John. It's probably not the first time. They're fishermen. They've been out there. Jesus grew up there. You know, it's like living in Junction City. If you live here more than 2 years, you know everybody that lives here and most of their business. That's why some of you went to Eugene or, you know. So the right lake. I want to talk about that just a minute. The right lake, if you're Jesus, or if you're working for Jesus, following Jesus. By the way, if you've decided to follow Jesus, your next job is to go fishing. And it's one of those things. Every follower of Jesus is supposed to be a fisher person. It's not optional. You know, there are those passages in Scripture that say you all have gifts and talents, and God gives Brad the gift of humility, and Mary the gift of joy, and everybody has a different gift. Well, this isn't a gift. It's a job. How many of you know that there's a difference between a gift and a job? Yeah. And sometimes the job is a gift, but it's not your job. So, Jesus says, come go fishing. Matthew chapter 4. He says, y'all come follow me. I'll make you fishermen. And I love it that they immediately drop their nets and they go to follow Jesus. But that's not the end of the story, because then we get to Luke's, which is obviously a different time. And he goes out and he comes upon this crowd, where there's so many people around. He sits in a boat. I love that. In Jesus' day, the teacher sat and the students stood. I'm thinking we might have to try that. Maybe not. Well, why do you think I have that stool so close? And he's telling these stories, and he's teaching people. And there's a teaching moment. He turns to Peter, who has been mending his nets and folding them and putting them in. Oh, I should explain something to you. Hold on. Thank you, Walt, for helping me with this. I forgot that Walt was really a deep sea fisherman, so I won't be casting with this. I wasn't clear in my instructions, but some of you need to be careful because I can reach you now. Pay attention. I was thinking, this is a salmon rod, right? Okay, so it's probably caught a salmon or two. 3 or 4, okay. So it still has some use left. So the problem is, we Americans think this is fishing. We think of it, we all have fishing rods. I actually own 6. Most of them they're all still in Texas, but I own 6. And, you know, we do one-on-one. It's you against the fish. Isn't that true? And it's one boat on the ocean, and it's really about me. That's how we fish in America. We call it sport, which I love this part. I love going out along the river or the lake, the Wild Lake. I actually have caught a lot of trout in my life. But I had Walt bring this because this is a better image. It's still not correct, but it's a better image of how fishing was done in Jesus' day. Now y'all better really be careful, because not only can I catch one of you, I could probably catch 2 of you. Now, I know that Walt uses this when there's a fish on and he gets up close enough to the boat, he reaches over and goes to make sure that it doesn't get away. Very important job, isn't it, Walt? Because if you try to lift the salmon up over the edge of the boat, it's probably
kill you if you miss it.
But in Jesus' day, they used nets. And that's why this story is so important for us, because Peter is sitting in the boat, he's folding up the nets, he's mending the nets, he's getting the nets ready for the next day, because you see, in Jesus' day, they didn't fish at the break of dawn like normal people do in our day and age. They fished overnight. And they would throw their nets over and do whatever you did with the net. And you hope you caught something. I don't know about you, but I'm thinking sometimes Jesus picked some strange people to be his disciples. I don't know if you've ever noticed, every time that Peter and James and John and Andrew go fishing, with the exception of this one, and although this one even fits, they catch nothing. Jesus doesn't even call fishermen who are successful fishermen. If you read the Gospels, every time they go fishing, they come home empty-handed. They had caught nothing. That's a bad day. That's a bad day if you're using a net. It's a bad day if you're just using a pole, but it's really a bad day if you're using a net. And so Jesus says, now, I'm done speaking. Just push off shore just a little bit. And Peter says, gosh, Jesus, my back is really tired enough. But because you're asking, I will. So he pushes out. And then he says, go on out into the deep water. Okay, Jesus. Don't give me that, because I said exactly the same thing to Jesus. And sometimes you just flat out didn't do it, even though you knew what was coming. So Jesus says to Peter, push out into the deep water and cast your net out on the right side. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. Every time the disciples go fishing and fish when and where Jesus tells them, they catch fish. And sure enough, on this first attempt, they put their nets over the side, and they have the biggest catch of fish in their lives. How many of you would like to have that big? You bet. Then you'd have to clean them all. Well, in their day, they were just going to sell them all. But, you see, they put their net over the side. They caught so many that they had to call their partners to bring their boat out. And it filled both boats to the point that both boats were sinking. And that's when Peter really had his revelation. And he falls at Jesus' feet. He says, Lord, get away from me. I am a sinful man. And Peter says, stand up, Peter. Because from now on, you're going to be fishing for men. Which meant he had to go where the people were. So where is that right lake? That right lake, I'm going to tell you, isn't here. You know, we're sitting here. It's nice. It's good. Oh, I want to catch Nancy. She's nice. She likes me. You know, I want to catch. We like to catch the people we know. Problem is, they're already caught. They're already in the boat. You see, those of us in the church are in the boat already. And our job, our one and only job as Christians, is to bring more people into the boat. You can read your Bible from front to back. The only job Christians have is bring more people into the boat. Which means you have to be in the lake where the people are, and that means you have to be doing stuff outside these walls. We have to be doing stuff in our communities. We have to be working to bring health and wholeness and joy and talking about Jesus with our friends and our neighbors that aren't inside the boat. Now, I will tell you, every once in a while, although I've never personally seen this, I've been told that there are fishermen so good that the fish just jumped in the boat. I've heard that story. I've never, ever, ever believed it. So the right lake is out there. You see, we're in the boat. The right bait, I'm going to tell you there's some things we can offer as bait. Things like love and forgiveness and acceptance and hope and joy. You know, if we offered more of that instead of condemnation, and I know nobody in this room ever offers a word of condemnation. Never, ever. One day, at the First Christian Church in Gurney where I was serving, it was in my third year. I'd gone to a chamber meeting and I had done what I've done here. And I actually had somebody come to church as a guest. Her name was Amanda. And Amanda was wonderful, and she was married and had a great husband and the cutest little girl you could ever imagine. And she started coming, and people were nice to her, and they joined, and I got to baptize both of them, and it was really great. So one day, as the weather warmed, she came in with, I think she was wearing a strapless dress, if you really want to know the truth. Couldn't tell you really what she was wearing. But it exposed a fairly large tattoo. I tell this story because on that day I learned what it meant to either love someone or not love someone. And she sat in the back row with her baby, because they always sat in the back. Kind of like you way back there in the back there. And the ladies in front of her had come in after her, and they had seen her tattoos. Now, I will tell you that these ladies were hard of hearing, and I knew that because they spoke loudly. And one of them was obviously judging it. What is that child going to grow up with in that home? And the other woman answered back. And I will tell you, to this day, Amanda has never darkened the door of church. Because it got worse than what I told you. I saw her get up and leave. There was nothing I could do, because it was in the middle of church. When we judge people for how they look or talk, that's not the right way. I have Baptist friends that use their Bibles as weapons. I inherited my grandfather's Bible. It was large print. It's the perfect weapon if I really wanted to do it. But that's not the right way. And it's connected to the last thing, with holding our mouths right. And I will tell you, the reports I get about this church from my friends that come and worship here is that these are nice folk. They smile a lot. I didn't tell them you practiced once. But we have to. We have to. I mean, if we're offering the joy of the Lord, shouldn't we smile? I mean, think about that for a minute. If we're offering peace and hope and a future, shouldn't we look like it? So my folks, when we come to this, when we come to being and following Jesus, we're called to become fishers of men. And fishing for men, just remember, only takes three things. The right lake, the right bait, and to hold your mouth right. Let's pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the gift of life that you've given us, and we thank you that you would move within us so that we might become better at fishing for men. In Jesus' name. Amen. Now, just so you know, fishing for men means telling the story. And we're going to sing, I love to tell the story, because I want you to love to tell the story. To everyone you meet. So, I want to invite you today to become better fishermen. But I also want to invite you to make this your church home, make your confession of faith, be baptized, to grow in faith here. Now here's a great secret. If you really want to grow in your faith, start fishing. Would you stand with me as we stand together?
Story of unseen things of
So Denise comes to transfer her membership to the life and work of First Christian Church in Junction City. We're going to extend the right hand of Christian fellowship, and I'm going to ask you 2 questions, and you can answer them both at the same time.
Okay.
Do you believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God, and have you received him as your Lord and Savior?
Yes.
So we're going to pray for Denise to fit in with us. And so, but we're going to wait for her and I to get to the back door. So as we leave, you can shake her hand and welcome her to the family of God. Let's pray. Gracious God, we thank you for this day. We thank you for Denise. And we just pray, Lord, that you would bless her and encourage her. Give her hope through us. May we minister to her, and may she in turn share your love with us and her gifts with us. And Lord, we thank you for this day. And all of God's people said,
Amen.